Well, I was going to say, hello and welcome back to the Start a Glamping Business podcast like usual. I've been saying that for about 3.5 years now, but we think it's time for a change, don't we, Connor? We think we're now called the Unique Stays podcast. We think, TBC. It might have changed since by the time this episode comes out. But essentially, we want to change the format up a little bit. We want to make it a little bit more casual. We want to bring on recurring guests, the best guests that we've had, that we have really good chemistry with, that we think have really interesting things to say, and move away from the kind of stock interview format, which I think was great, but it kind of came a little bit stale. So we're really excited to be coming back with a brand new revamped version of the podcast. So, we're going to be talking more about specific issues and ideas and discussion points now every episode, rather than focusing on a specific operator. Connor, you've been a monthly co-host. Now you're going to be coming on a lot more. You're a big reason why we've changed it up. I loved your ideas, and we're really excited to try things out. So how are you feeling about the new concept?
I'm really excited. One, we wanted to make this a little bit more fun and have it be a little bit less structured and scripted, because when you're listening to podcasts, you want it to be enjoyable. So we figured, Nick and I would try to get a little banter going and rip on each other a little bit, so you guys can enjoy it at our expense. And then really, obviously there's a ton of value that can be gleaned from hearing an operator's story. But what we noticed was, there's so much that goes into an operator story that we were only able to spend a little bit of time on a lot of important things. So we want to kind of flip that on its head and spend a lot of time on specific things, and then try to bring in, we like to think that Nick and I have a pretty good perspective on a lot of these topics from the breadth of projects that we've had a chance to look on or to work on. But then we also wanted to, basically say what our opinions are from, our point of view, but also then bring in someone that we would consider an expert and see what their opinion is, and have a little bit more chat about super specific subject matter that we thought would, greatly value you guys.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, as mentioned, we're doing issue-focused episodes now. And today's episode, to kick things off, we're going to be talking about what we think sets apart the top 5% of not just glamping operators, but also any unique stay, any outdoor hospitality projects. We're also going to talk a little bit about, not specifically today, but in general, about Airbnbs and kind of unique stays outside of glamping as well, because we are trying to broaden the audience a little bit as well, whilst also kind of remaining true to where we came from, which was glamping. So, in that spirit, today's guest is someone that we had on not too long ago. There's a reason why we were inviting him back on, because he was one of our favourite guests, and that's Big Noel Dutson from Open Sky Zion. So I do suggest you go back and listen to that episode, which I will hopefully remember to include in the description of this episode to hear his backstory. But today we're going to be talking about the top 5% of glamping operations and what sets them apart. And without further ado, here's Big Noel. Big Noel, how's it going?
Good. How are you gents today?
Good to see you, Big Noel. Doing well.
How have things been going since we last spoke?
A lot has happened since then. A lot of great things, a lot of challenges, which every month you think you've seen the worst or the big problems or challenges you're going to have, and always something new pops up. So you just always have to be on your feet. So right now...
Can someone give this guy a break?
I was gonna...
Things are actually running smoother for a couple months. I'm like, oh, this is nice. We can do this. Like, all right, this is what the dream was all about. And then, nope, let's do one more round.
Okay, what's been cracking off since we last spoke?
I want to be a little careful how I share this, but it's one of those things too where I will go to bat for my guests all day long to make sure they have a great experience. The challenge I've been having recently is there's a local farmer down the valley that dry farms watermelons. And he is shooting off his propane scare cannons to deter the rabbits, the birds, everything from his crop that he had this year, and just kind of causing a nuisance. And so anyway, it's interfering with our guests. So never did I think in a million years had planned or anticipated in learning how to deal with a local farmer with cannons that blast off loud propane noises all night that disturb our guests' sleep. So talk about privacy and seclusion and peacefulness, this is a big impact. And we're working through that now. We'll get some solutions done here really quickly, but it's been a challenge.
My question is, what did you do in a past life? Because last time we spoke, we went through your journey. I think we actually titled the episode the most difficult glamping startup journey we've ever heard. And
I
the
saw
bad
that.
luck.
I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that's a big headline. Oh, cool.
Uh,
All right.
you got to get those clicks. And so, I do recommend everyone who didn't listen to that episode does go back and listen to it. As I said, I'll try and remember to link it in the description. So yeah, just for the benefit of everyone who didn't listen to that last episode, or who, maybe wants a brief 2-minute refresher, could you just kind of go over your backstory again, some of the challenges that you went into setting up your glamping site, and then how Open Sky Zion came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess starting out in the glamping industry, it was kind of something that came around back in 2016. So just the quick little version here is we bought some beautiful, stunning property by Zion National Park back in 2018. It was 80 acres of just gorgeous off-grid, exquisite property, and it's just tucked up this really secluded canyon. Was able to develop out through multiple phases because we had to prove ourselves to the bank, and we had a lot of challenges with getting our entitlements, getting our water rights, our well drilled, and just our power and everything as far as operations getting out the ground. It was a extremely huge challenge. We built it through COVID, so we had all of those issues. We opened up 2021 in April and had our very first guest come stay with us. From there, we grew it from 3 luxury accommodations, luxury camps. We used the Bush Tech luxury safari camps and grew that to a total of 13 now. We also do have a beautiful indoor fine dining restaurant called Black Sage that it's open to our guests, of course. That was the main priority and purpose with that. I was delivering on that experience for them. But it's also open to non-guests as well. So other visitors visiting the Zion area can reserve a table and come up and have a beautiful dining experience with us. So it's kind of where we're at right now.
We've alluded to the challenges that you went through. I think that the story that kind of comes to mind for us is when you were setting up the site, one of your contractors posted some kind of post on Facebook, which basically got the community in uproar or something like that.
Yeah, we definitely had some challenges with the local community as far as just the other neighbors at the property because they just want any other development up the canyon, which I totally understand and respect. And I really hope that to now they can see that we didn't come in and just build a 80-unit camp, and we really tucked them into nature. We color coded everything and really tried to respect them and the other adjoining landowners. That was a big piece to me, and it really shows now. Like, it is a gorgeous resort now. It's quiet, it's peaceful, it's settled in, and I think for the majority, most of the neighbors are pretty happy with how it's turned out.
Yeah, just need to sort out the watermelon farmer.
Yes, that's a new one now.
Today, as mentioned, we're going to be talking about the top 5% of glamping and outdoor hospitality operators and what we think sets them apart from the rest. We've not been particularly scientific with how we define the top 5%. It's going to be a bit of a general discussion, but we have some sites in mind that we think are great. Just to kind of define the parameters of the discussion a little bit, we are ruling out the kind of super luxury sites that are charging, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 per night, just because we don't think they're as accessible. But we're talking the top 5% of kind of more accessible operations that listeners and prospective operators might be able to kind of aspire to and maybe learn some things from. So we will mention sites like Amangiri because they are you can learn stuff from them anyway, but certainly it's kind of not quite the kind of level that we're talking to. That they serve celebrities and uber wealthy clients. So we're talking like Open Sky, your site, Big Noel. We're talking like Anera at Fredericksburg, Ben Wolf's site, that kind of level where the listeners can kind of learn from those operators. So Connor, I think we're going to start with you for your kind of first idea that you think sets apart the top 5% from the rest.
Yeah, and I think, just for the audience, how we wanted to structure this is I'd give my opinion or assessment of what that is. Nick would do his, and then we would actually go to the only real expert in the room who's doing this, who's actually executing, because Nick and I are just theoretical guys who help other people. So my thing is, I guess if I had a superpower in this industry, it would be that I've probably looked at more glamping websites than maybe anyone else in the world. And that comes with us needing comps and the comprehensive database that we've built. We have just updated our database, so it includes around 300 glamping locations across the U.S., which tracks around 700 different unit types and their rates. And their amenities and what type of unit it is. So that's the lens that I'm coming at it with, is really looking at a lot of these websites online. I've also had a chance to visit a lot of these properties personally. So as Nick said, I want to give like a quick honorable mention to who in the US are the top 5 glamping resorts that are getting the highest rates. And the first is Amangiri, which is in Utah. Super luxury, very exclusive, kind of a place for the rich and famous. Paws Up Resort in Montana, which is on 40,000 acres. Again, those are both, $1,000 to $5,000 a night. And then there is also the Ranch at Rock Creek and Dutton Camp and Goose Wing Ranch. And these are all, interestingly enough, these top 5% are all in pretty inaccessible places, which is unique, but I think that's because the rich and famous have their private jets that they can fly into Jackson Hole or these smaller airports. But one of the things that I thought was super interesting of these top 5, and then Clayoquot in BC, Canada, is the first thing you see when you go onto all of these websites is a stunning videography montage. So I think that's an interesting takeaway. And they're all have pretty incredible properties. Like Paws Up is 40,000 acres. I think Amangiri is 700 acres. So you're getting a lot of privacy and exclusivity and space. So that's like, I'd say in the top 1%. But as Nick said, we don't want to focus on those because we think for most listeners, that's going to be just out of reach. So we wanted to try to find examples of high performing properties that were a little bit more accessible and achievable for most folks, or that type of situation. So moving away from those 5, I've got a couple that I think are good honorable mentions that I think are a little bit more accessible. And that is Powley Catskill. In the Catskills, it's about 2.5 hours from New York. And then a Tiny House Resort, which is in a similar market. Ambiente in Sedona, and Black Tree Resort in Colorado. So those are just kind of a couple examples. And then Tennessee Glamping and Asheville Glamping. And the reason I selected those is because most of those properties are getting around 500 to 1,000 a night. Ambiente is actually getting even higher. And I wanted to basically go through what I thought each of those properties did well and why I think they're able to achieve those. So I thought it'd be helpful to maybe kind of just go down the list a little bit and talk about what it is that's really working in the favor of these properties. So Powley Catskills, it's 2.5 hours from New York City. So I think the real headline there is the market that they have access to. Having access to the wealth and population of the 10 to 15 million people in New York and Boston is undeniable. It's almost hard to miss with that type of demand within a 3-hour drive. And I think that's the biggest thing going for this property. They also have super unique units. They're kind of these hard wall modern structures, very luxury, but not something that's inaccessible. I wouldn't imagine they're more than $250,000 for the vertical cost of that unit. And then the other thing that they're doing really well is their amenities. So they have a great F&B program with a really aesthetic restaurant. And they also have a spa, and not just like, we put in a barrel sauna and a cold plunge, but it's a real in-ground pool with wonderful architecture, a view overlooking the property. And I think those are the 3 main factors that are really helping them to get these rates that are in kind of the 800 range. And also, since they're using hardwall units, they're able to operate year round. Another interesting example in the same market is a place called a Tiny House Resort, which is way more mom and pop feeling than Powley Catskills, and but they're getting amazing rates, like oftentimes in 600 to 800. And it's a nice property, and they're nice units, and they have nice amenities, but nothing really screams to me luxury. And I think that really demonstrates the power of building in a great market like the Catskills, having access to those larger population hubs like New York City and um, Boston. And, if you put in, you have good high quality units and some good amenities, that's what's really working for them. The next one is Tennessee Glamping. And they have these domes that are on a ridgeline that overlook these beautiful forests, like sprawling forests. And this is really interesting because I think it's a super accessible model. I would imagine their units they're on these amazing huge decks with these awesome domes. They have everything you could want in them, like kitchen, shower, beds, outdoor shower, barbecue, chairs, hot tub. So they're fully equipped and they're really nice deck spaces. But the finishes in the dome I wouldn't say are 5-star luxury, but they're good. And I think what this company is showing and doing really well is essentially their the view, right? Like people are coming here to get this stunning view. They have a ton of privacy and you can go there and just take in this super unique landscape. So I wouldn't say it's a crazy good market. Domes are really unique and nice and they tend to drive high rates. But what's working for this company is the view, the $1 million view. And what's also interesting about this is one of the few examples that's much more of the short-term vacation rental model where it's very low touch, low staff, self check-in. There's very few, if any, shared amenities, and they're getting $400, $500, $600 a night, and they're highly occupied. So that's the other example. There's one called Asheville Glamping that is a really similar story, just with slightly different variety of units. And then the last example is Black Tree Resort in Colorado using safari tents. And I think when I'm looking at all these properties, what they have in common, or I guess if I was coming up with a checklist, so to put myself in the audience shoes, like if I'm looking for a property to launch a glamping business, this is kind of the order I would go in. And this also is kind of assuming you're on the property hunt. And the first is it a great market? And the two biggest things are, is there good population access? How many people do you have within a 2 to 3 hour drive radius or within a major airport? And then the second one is, how are your demand drivers? How is tourism? Are you next to a national park? Are you next to a really popular a really popular tourist town? That's going to bring the need and guests who need a place to stay to your area. So it does the heavy lifting for you. There's already guests coming to this area and they're going to need a place to stay and you're that solution. So that's kind of number one, because obviously you can't create that. You have to pick a location that encompasses that. So that's the number one thing I would look for. The second is a great property or great units. Because I think I oftentimes see like Onera Fredericksburg, I think is a good example of this. Like they have a nice property, but I wouldn't say it's mind blowing. They really nailed it with having super unique and super luxury units. And that's how they got their success. And then you can also have these great properties with wonderful views, and that'll do a lot of the heavy lifting. In both scenarios, you have to have good, high quality units. But sometimes whether it's an amazing property and you let the view do the work, or whether you have an incredible unit and you let that do a majority of the work, you have to have one of those, or ideally both. Yeah,
Can I cut in there just on those first 2 points, Big Noel? Where do you think you fall on those? So in terms of the location and market, and then also the kind of the property and the units kind of point.
I'm going to think that we got very, very lucky on our go around as far as for Open Sky Zion, because it's a gorgeous property, has a major wow factor to it, and we put some stunning camps up there. We ended up going with the safari camps. There's lots of different styles out there. We went for a little more of a consistent theme throughout the property. Wanted everything kind of as far as the architecture to be kind of the same. Other folks have put a mixture of them in there, and that is totally works too. So it's kind of whatever you want to do on that. But yeah, Connor's straight on point. I don't think I knew all these in the very beginning. I think I had a gut instinct for that, but actually to lay this out into a format you can follow is incredible at this stage in the glamping industry.
And your market, do you get, is it mostly people wanting an escape from the city? Is it people passing through? Where's that for?
Ideally, it is mostly people coming to visit Zion National Park as a destination. That is really the draw that comes here. So most of our folks come from New York, Boston, Florida, California, Washington, Oregon, some in the Midwest, and then we get quite a few folks from France, Belgium, Netherlands, Britain, to other places.
And to chime in on Bignell's property, so he has a stunning property and stunning units, and chose a really clean and attractive aesthetic that makes the whole property look good from a drone shot perspective and inside the units. And if nothing was there, it would still be awesome. So he nailed that for both. And then, Zion has a really low population access. It's pretty remote. Like there's not a large standing or wealthy population in that area compared to, say, California or Austin or New York. But he's next to a major demand driver, and that is Zion, which is one of the best national parks to be next to. It's in a top 5 in terms of annual visitation. And that visitation is very spread out. It has, the hottest time of the year in Zion is in the summer, and the shoulder season is the best weather. So you have a really nice kind of 8-month season from March to October. Would you agree with that, Bignell? Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, March even till November is actually pretty decent as well. So it's mostly just December, January, and February. They're kind of some of your slower months.
And Bignell has an excellent website, and that's what I was just about to jump into, which is the next thing, which is your website has to be amazing. And I noticed that with those top 5 and also with the top 5% is typically like a really stunning drone photography or something of the nature, or showing the luxury of the units like robes or a copper soak tub or an outdoor shower, or a spa, someone getting into a spa or enjoying a luxury meal. Like those are the kind of images that conjure up this premium feel. And I really can't overstate that enough. Is just super. There's nothing that you can invest in more that will go further than photography and videography, and incorporating that in your website and your social media and things like that. So that's number 3.
On the website point, I want to add as well, it's really important that you get the high quality videography, photography, etc. But it's also, I think, just as, if not more important, that you nail the basics as well. Even when I'm not looking to book a stay, when I'm just looking at a glamping site's website or a Unique Stays website, it really annoys me when it's not intuitive, when I have to work hard to try and find their booking calendar. If I go through the process of booking and I have to go through several different pages, I was looking, I won't name the company, but I was looking at a hotel's website 3 months ago, and I had to go through 3 different pages. It was just so disjointed. It wasn't intuitive at all. And to me, if you're charging anywhere more than $50 a night, it should be pretty straightforward and smooth to book a stay. And that's from going on the website and knowing where the booking calendar is, all the way to after you've booked, is the information that you get clear? Is it communicated quickly? Is it communicated at the right time? Because you don't necessarily have to overload them with information the minute they book. And I think it's criminal when sites that are charging $500 a night don't get that right. So I just wanted to add to that. Yes, the stunning videography is very important for selling a luxury stay, but if you can't back it up with the very basics, then I think that's pretty poor as well from those operators. And I think the top 5% absolutely nail those parts as well.
Definitely. Yeah, it's so basic and so essential, and the booking software warrants its own episode, which I think we are planning in the next couple months to try to do a deep dive and compare some and get feedback from operators. So we'll save that discussion for another time. All right, so the checklist is, is it a great market? Is it a great property? And if it's not a stunning property, are there going to be stunning units? The third one is an excellent website, photography and videography. And then the fourth is amenities. There's a lot I could say about amenities. We'll probably have our own podcast episode just for that at some point. But I said this on a podcast before, but it's important to say again. And also, these are generalizations across the entire U.S. I had someone reach out to me after one of our episodes and say, "Hey, you're projecting 400 to 600 if you have these, and I'm in Missouri, and I was wondering if does that apply to my market?" And it's like, well, in some ways it does apply to your market, but you have to also bear in mind that it's not New York, it's not Austin. There's going to be an adjustment to your region. These are averages across the entire country. So take it with a grain of salt, but this is just kind of helpful benchmarking. And for me, if you have a solid unit, but not a lot, with no bathroom and not a ton going on that's extraordinary, I'm typically expecting in the 100 to 150 range for rates as a starting point. Obviously that can change. And then if you have a bathroom, it might be more in the 150 to 200, 250. And then when you want to start getting above that, you're either going to need an amazing property, an amazing unit, or amazing amenities. And I think the next biggest one that I know Bignall thinks is very important, and the data shows us is highly important, is food and beverage. And that could be something simple like a food truck or grab and go or breakfast, and like any of that is helpful. But what's really going to put you into the luxury level is like real dining service, a real high class menu, wines, cocktails. Like those are the things that are, someone can order a salmon or a steak or a craft cocktail or a nice bottle of wine. Like that's what is putting you at the collective retreats, open sky, at that, into that $500, $600, $700 price point. And then the third thing that we notice that I think is super important is a spa. And I think that's kind of the last thing. If you have private bathroom, food and bev, and a spa, I think, and the other aspects of the market and the property are good to great. Like that's the type of thing that's going to really up you to that luxury level. And, obviously having a barrel sauna on your property has value. And I always recommend doing that. It's a good $10,000 entry point to that amenity, and it's great. But I'm also talking about, something that might be a $10,000 to $150,000 build with an in-ground hot tub with a very nice stick-built custom sauna, or nice views and a cold plunge and robes and things like that. So that's kind of the third amenity. So if I was starting a glamping property, that would be kind of my checklist in order of priority.
Big no. Do you pass Connor's test?
All besides the last one, the spa. The spa, I can't quite wrap my head around it yet still.
I think you have enough going on.
What kind of amenities do you have?
We have all of those as far as when it comes down to at the end of the day. Yes, there's always room for improvement. I mean, the biggest thing we really don't have quite yet would be like a pool or a hot tub or a sauna. We've tried to like decentralize everything so everybody kind of has their individual camp setups, and that's worked out really well for us. And the food and bev is we're still getting that figured out. Food and bev is going to be one of the hardest pieces to this puzzle. And we've been at it for a year and a half now, and we still don't have it figured out yet. Like this all sounds really good in theory and on paper, and it looks amazing, and the pictures look great. But then there's the backside of the team and the staff and getting the food up there and prepared and trying to make it profitable and make it work. So that's where all the challenges come from.
Yeah, I always am like, hey, F&B is super important, but I didn't say it would be easy. Starting a good, high-quality restaurant by itself is its own business and a huge lift. So I know it's far from easy. Any tips, Bignall, like, partnering with a local restaurateur, or just, lessons learned about if someone was really trying to bring in a high quality dining service like you have and are working towards, what would you recommend?
So I think about this all the time. Is at some point you have to get food for your guests, because what I have kind of termed, and I don't know if anyone else has taken this too, is like what I call the glamping golden hour. That is really the time you're paying for when they arrive 3 or 4 p.m. in the afternoon until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. That's your money shot. That's what they're paying for. So if they have to leave your property to go find food, they check in, they leave, and they come back, it's dark. Well, anybody can, once they go to sleep, it doesn't matter if it's a hotel, if it's a glamping unit, if it's $5,000, $100, doesn't really matter a whole lot at that point. So that was my biggest thing, is trying to solve that problem. So there's many different ways you can solve that. One is yes, we went ahead and actually built a dining establishment, and we're still actually running out of a food truck. So believe it or not, we've actually built around a food truck, and most people think we're crazy, but we've had to pivot and adjust and grow with it. And you would never know. We built a beautiful facade around it, and we have some great indoor dining areas. We have an outdoor dining, and it's actually functioning now. We've got it really kind of streamlined. Breakfast is still a big thing too. Guests really want breakfast on that upper echelon. And lunch is one that's been forgiving. We've tried to do some packed lunches. They could pre-order the night before, but it just really hasn't taken off. So we actually kind of discontinued that recently as kind of a pilot program because most of them are gone off the property anyway. There's ways to import some food, so like pre-made packages they can order through the website during the booking process or upon their pre-arrival, and or working with a couple other local individuals that can have a commissary kitchen and prep some things. So there's ways you can work around it.
Hi, friends. This is your host, Connor Schwab at Sage Outdoor Advisory. If you're launching an outdoor hospitality project like glamping, we can help. We offer feasibility studies and appraisals. What that means is we look at your specific market and proposed business offering and complete an in-depth analysis and financial projections to make sure that your planned business will be profitable. Getting a second opinion on your proposal and forecasted financials is critical to understand before you spend years of your time and hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is particularly important if you are looking to raise money for your project from a bank or private investors. They are going to want to see this type of in-depth analysis from an independent third-party specialist in the industry. We have completed over 250 feasibility studies and appraisals in outdoor hospitality in the US in the last 4 years. So we understand what it takes to bring a project from concept to reality. If this sounds like it could be helpful to you, you can go to our website, sageoutdooradvisory.com, and you can schedule a complimentary consultation with our team. Thanks. Now back to the show.
I'll maybe kind of close off my segment, but yeah, if you need a good example of basically all the things I was just talking about, you can go to Big Null's website, because talk about executing at an A+ level for all of those things. Photography, particularly of the inside of the units, is incredible. The outside is incredible. The landscape and drone photography of the property is incredible. And yeah, just really strong amenities and F&B. So yeah, it's no shock why you're getting the really impressive rates that you're getting, and customer retention and just overall recognition. I guess, Nick, wanted to see if you had any feedback on what I just said or thoughts, or if you just wanted to transition into your take.
No, I think we discussed it. All I would add is there's also a big book now button in the top right corner, which is very easy to follow, which follows up on what I said. It's get the basics right as well as the nice pictures. So no, I think you put it across great. Can I go with my first point? So
Please.
A little more abstract. I think Connor did a great job there of nailing down specific details. Mine is kind of just more of an abstract thought about what I think really sets apart the top performers. And I think it's when they have their own thing, which sounds ridiculously imprecise, but if I was to put it into words, it was more when you look at their site and you look at their social media and how they do everything, all the details. I think you can see the vision of their owner and founder in every single detail. So to give you some specific examples, actually to start with, I field a lot of calls from prospective operators, and I can't tell you how many times I've had the same conversation where it's basically, hey, I have some land in X, and I want to put 10 domes on there. And that's how it starts. There's no vision. There's no specific idea of how they want it to look. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who can start with a pretty broad vision like that and turn it into something special. But I think that the best ones, the top 5%, are the ones who have a specific vision of what they want, and they are absolute killers at implementing it. So we had Irene Woods from the Fields of Michigan on a couple of months ago. Her tagline is Midwestern hospitality perfected. It's kind of based on her upbringing in the Midwest. She loves hospitality. It's part of who she is. And you can see that in every single detail of her site, of her social media. And you can really see her vision implemented in every single tiny detail. So, you know, when you look at her website and on Instagram, everything is nicely laid out. There's beautiful lighting. When they host events, the dinner tables look amazing and it looks like the kind of place you'd want to be. And every single part of the site has Irene written all over it. And I think that is just an example of her having her thing, never losing sight of that. Really implementing those principles of hospitality that she is so passionate about, and it's visible in the site, but also when you stay, you know, she is milling about the site. She's speaking to guests every day. Her staff are speaking to guests every day. It's the complete opposite of the modern kind of, you know, we'll leave the guests alone model, which also really works. But for Irene, she wants to go out and meet the guests. And I think that has been a huge factor in how that site has been so successful, why she's growing so rapidly, why she gets such good reviews, and why I think she's in the top 5%. So I have another example of a founder having their own thing, but I don't know if anyone had any thoughts on that at all.
I couldn't agree more. I think that is so important. I hear all my business school professors saying, why is your customer coming to your property? And I think that just kind of ties in really nicely with what you were saying. And Irene Woods is a perfect example. Crystal clear mission statement. Like, this is what we're providing. Midwestern hospitality perfected. It's clean. And I think, the fundamental question you should ask before you do anything is, why are customers coming to your property? And all other decision trees should reflect back to that.
Yeah. And it's also, it feeds into marketing as well, because if everything on the site is to your vision and the whole experience is to your vision, then you as a founder can become a marketing tool. You can do what Bolt Farm Treehouse, for example, do, hop on an Instagram live and talk about their site and show guests around. And I think everything is so much more coherent when you have a specific vision and you follow that to the last. And you have to be a good executor as well to do that, because it's very easy to have a vision and lose sight of it. And I think Irene sets herself apart in that front as well, because she just was laser focused in how she did it. And, her site is all the better for it.
And Bignall, to get your opinion, if we were to ask you the question, why does a customer come to Open Sky? What's the reason? What's the foundational reason besides that, or that you're trying to communicate? I guess, what would that be?
Yeah, for us, it's really about creating that wow factor in nature. So, like, for us, it's about, okay, where luxury sleeps under the stars. That's kind of our tagline. So we want you to create a luxury experience immersed in nature. That's what we're offering. And with that, you have to have the passion to start with. If you're not passionate about it, this business is extremely hard and difficult dealing with all the elements.
I thought it was easy, Big No.
And then it is easy. It's so easy. I'll do it.
Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. And then my biggest piece for all of this is the customer journey. It is the team members you have on your property. It is the culture you create. It is how you make those guests feel. It is those individual touch points that make those guests really feel connected to your brand, to you, your journey, your story, and then they want to tell all of their friends. So if you can get that feeling across to them and show that you really did care, you actually listened to them, you're empathetic, and you really take care of them, like, beyond the bottom line, and it's about the guest, and from there it just goes like wildflower. Like, it's fire. Like, it is really, to me, my core piece, what I feel like has made Open Sky.
And as an operator implementing that, is there anything specific that you can point to of how you've kind of implemented that principle?
It's taking everything you guys all talked about to this point too. So it's setting that customer journey and that expectation line. It all starts with your website, is that first touch point. And then keeping that touch point all the way through until they leave. Because, like, you can't have a beautiful website and beautiful drone footage, and then they show up and then their check-in and arrival experience wasn't that great. They didn't really know what happened, and then, the propane tank wasn't going, their AC didn't work, or their heater, or all these different issues. So if you can't take care of those, they leave, and, like, I didn't get my value out of it. I didn't have my expectations were set this, and I did left with that. So it's really just making sure you're committed to that.
And presumably some of the some aspects of the experience that you create have changed from the day you open, right? If you you've seen how guests have responded, and how have you changed things up from when you first started?
Yeah, absolutely. They will tell you what they want to see and how they want to experience it. So as long as you can listen and set aside your ego, and yes, we have to have a vision, we have to create something and kind of force it a little bit, because this is what we want to make you unique. But once you kind of get that pushed through to a certain balance, you have to take a step back and realize, okay, it's not about you anymore. It is about your guests, individual guests that comes through there. So yes, listen to them and really just take their thoughts. And some will be great ideas, some will not be great ideas, and then just pivot fast.
Is there anything that you went in and you said it's not about you anymore, it's about the guests? And I think that's actually great, because I think a lot of operators may steam into this with a specific idea of what they want to do, and as I said, you kind of need a little bit of that, because you need to have that vision and stick to it, but also you need to be flexible enough to adjust once you're actually in business. So is there anything that you think you got wrong going into opening your site from day one, that you had to adjust based on guest feedback or guest response?
I'm not gonna really say wrong. I think the biggest thing they learned from that is they wanted seclusion and privacy. They paid the extra money to be an extra 200 feet away from their neighbors. So our complete site layout changed dramatically after we had our first 3 units up. That was a big surprise to me. That was a big feedback from them. On the second go around, I mean, food was a huge one. It was a problem from day one that I didn't really realize it was going to be that big of a problem. But food was a big one we had to really learn how to adapt and accomplish. And then one just as kind of a interesting thought was like with our second phase of building up more units, we had planned to have everybody park in the parking lot, and then we would transform up to their units and kind of keep all the vehicles out of all the rest around the camps. And within a week, guests were furious. They're like, no, like, why can't we drive up there? There's a road right there. And we pivoted within a week, like, okay, cancel that. Guests can go to the units. We went up with the track hoe the next week, and we dug out parking lots. We put some rotomill in there, made it really nice, and into the sagebrush, and made it clean and classy. Now everybody has their own parking lots in front of each of their units, and guests have loved it. So that was one quick pivot as a story.
I'd be interested in knowing if there's anything that you would pivot if you could, but for whatever reason, whether it's too expensive or you've gone too far down the track. And so, let's say, I mean, knowing your luck, this could happen. The whole site gets blown over, you lose the business and you had to start all over again. Is there anything that you do differently that you couldn't do now at Open Sky?
My biggest one is just power, like being fully off grid, dealing with the power issues and trying to make sure there's a 24/7 power coming to all the units has probably been our biggest challenge. So if I could redo that and just actually be connected to the grid, I'd be a very happy individual. That'd be number one. Number two, water's not as big of an issue because you can have us holding tanks. So you can buy some time if there's an issue. You can have a day or so to get through the night. I would probably do a different types of mixture of my units. And this is what's been kind of interesting is as we have pushed our rates up, we've attracted a different type of clientele. And so our clientele has actually changed from day one to now. So in the beginning, for example, we was on Airbnb and we had 50% of our guests were coming from Airbnb, to where now we get 95% as direct bookings, and we got 2 reservations from Airbnb this year. Nothing's changed besides the rates going up. So that's been kind of interesting, is finding the different expectations from those individuals. So my mixture of units would probably change. So like our Star Seeker Superior units, those things are booked all the time. And so it's been interesting to find that right mixture of style of accommodation for your guests. So I'd probably change out a few of those.
Yeah. Have you found it harder to go up in luxury and quality compared to maybe going down?
My goals are always set to go up, and everybody thought I was kind of crazy when I was proposing the numbers and ideas, all the different hospitality folks that I was mentoring from. So I actually kind of set my bar a little bit lower to begin with. And then really just every year I was kind of like pushing it until we kind of find that equilibrium. I think we're about right there now, where we're in a really good, approachable luxury. We deliver a great product, a great experience, and where they leave feeling like they got their values worth. I think we're right there right now.
Hey, quick interjection. Big Note. Well, first off, thank you for just using solar and using, a sustainable power source. I know it's not always easier. Hopefully it'll be smoother moving forward. I know being connected to the grid is always easier, but one thing I imagine is as sustainability and eco-friendly solutions become more important to the consumer, as we know things are trending that way, I realized I don't think it's advertised or shown on your website that the property is powered by solar. Is that listed anywhere?
It is not, and just so you know, we are launching a new website end of this month. It is going through a complete overhaul, so it's going to be completely refreshed, and that's going to be part of the story. Is that it's time to really show that off and talk about it.
What's the reason for the overhaul?
I feel like that we've kind of outgrown that as far as like trying to make it easier functionality side. Yes, it's beautiful. It's kind of more of a, like originally it was built as a landing page when I was trying to find investors, and we just kind of just made it work, bolted things on, and got past the last 4 years. We recently overhauled our PMS system, so and kind of in conjunction with that, it's taking the next step. We are going to have like a full video montage type of scenery across the face of it. So kind of you're spot on with there. We're rolling that out. And then really just kind of breaking it down into the functions of what we actually offer, who is Open Sky, and kind of getting more directly to the point and really helping those guests make the decisions easier on like which unit type and getting through that process quicker. More of the 1, 2, 3 click book.
Well, he's leaving the top 5% and he's going to the top 1% now.
Yeah, baby.
But you
hey,
have to start somewhere, and you just have to continue to improve.
yeah. The one other interjection I want to make is Big Null, I was just looking up your website as well. You have on Google reviews, you have 4.9 stars out of 150 reviews, which is remarkable. And when you start getting over 100 reviews, it gets super hard to maintain that. And I think the biggest reason is expectation. And does expectation from a great website meet reality of a great expectation when people arrive? And if people are coming to spend $800 for your units and your photography is so good, they must come in with a very high bar of what they're going to experience on the property. And based off your reviews, it seems like they're getting that and more. Just wondering if there was any secret to that or any lessons learned in terms of just like the reviews. And obviously public reviews are great for your brand and SEO. Just any thoughts on how you were able to achieve that or lessons learned?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things. So one thing that's quite fascinating is on the SEO side, the highest time spent on our website is on our reviews page, which is like averaging 6 minutes. So guests will spend more time on reviews reading those than any other page. That was kind of mind blowing to me, and that is very critical to us. The second piece is making sure your imagery, your videography matches the actual experience. If there's a deviation in there, you're going to have guests show up with those high expectations and say, oh, hey, that didn't match the pictures. That wasn't a true representation of what I was going to get. And then you have to work on guest recovery at that point, and then you have a bigger problem that you need to address and adjust something there. Either elevate your experience or kind of decrease your representation of how you present yourself online. If you get those two to line up, that's your golden ticket. From there, it makes it pretty easy. Then it just comes down to your team on the property and making sure going that extra mile for them. Now, there's been several times this year we've had to do guest recovery, and our team is incredible at it. Like the other day, we had an issue with one of the AC units not really performing as good as it should when it was 108 degrees outside. And they're like, hey, we booked your place because you had AC. And we instantly went and got our other portable AC unit, went and put it inside the room. They still weren't happy with it. Even though it was cool in there, they didn't like the fact in their expectations having a portable window unit inside of their room, even though it was cool at that point. So one of the team members saw that and saw that they were vegan. So they went down to the grocery store and put together this big, beautiful basket of all this food products that they could enjoy during their stay. And they put it in there with a note card, and they put some flowers in there. And time those guests left were raving fans. They thanked us profusely for listening to them and helping them through their stay. And now they want to come back again. So that's one example.
It's like when you upset a woman and you have to go and get her flowers
Yes.
to make up for it.
Pretty much. You do every time.
So much.
Our team's great at that.
So much gold. God, so much gold in there. It's always such a pleasure to have you on, Vignal.
Yeah.
What a great insight that people spend most of the time on your reviews page. So thank you for sharing that. And I have a tendency to oversimplify things like, oh, just make a great website. Obviously, the second and harder portion of that is executing and expectation meeting reality. So that's a good clarification. And then this third point about, things are going to go wrong, right? And there's kind of, what we learned in our MBA was there's really two things. Some guests want a solution, and some guests just want you to either admit that you were wrong or show that you care. Like if you made a mistake in booking or whatever, they want you to admit and try to remedy it. But basically, either they want a solution or they just want to see that you care. And you did both in that example, right? You brought them a solution. They still weren't happy, so you were probably out of solutions that you could provide at option. But then you went the extra mile and just showed that you actually care. So, yeah, lots of good lessons on that. Thank you.
I will say one more thing too. And if it is your mistake, something happens, own it, acknowledge it right off the bat. And if you have to refund some monies, you do. Because to me, if we don't meet their expectations, we didn't deliver on that, you can have your money back. That's not important to me. It is about the guest. So I just want to make sure that was kind of clear too on how we operate. And that's not very often.
Did that idea come from you personally to make up for it with the hamper?
For those other guests? No, that was one of our team members.
How did you train them to think like that? Did you hire someone who was great at customer service in the first place? Because that's quite an unusual thing to do, to really go that extra mile and completely turn around a situation. So how did you get in a position where you've got staff that can do that without you telling them to do it?
It's the culture that I've set. So like from the day that I was there, so I started out checking all the guests in, I was doing all the cleaning. So I was on the ground floor. So I've been able to kind of take that. And as my team has grown, they've kind of seen how my leadership has been in that regards. And to where I give them the liberty to do that. And I have a great general manager too. And he understands that as well, that guest satisfaction is the most important piece to it.
Okay. And do you have tactics for getting reviews? Obviously, the main thing is to create an experience worthy enough to make guests want to leave positive reviews. But is there anything specific you do to get those testimonials?
We actually have not yet. It's actually kind of in the works. We have, to be frankly honest, we have no follow-up emails. There's no follow-up texts. We don't really solicit for feedback right now when it comes to posting review. When our guests do check out, one thing that we do is our front desk agent, they always ask them how they found us and how was their stay and anything we could do to improve. And it's amazing what the guests will tell you. So we have our Slack channel that they post to every single guest that checks out. So every day I'm browsing through that. And it's a great way to kind of keep a pulse on what's happening with our guests, without me being there every single day. And that's one thing I did not want to lose as this company has grown. So that's been incredible.
And are you stepping away a little bit from the day-to-day operations?
I've been out of the day-to-day operations for almost probably coming on 6 months now. Wes has really taken it.
You're always 2 steps ahead. Thanks, Wes. You're killing it. You're always 2 steps ahead, Big Null. One of the things I would recommend to the audience, so you said it perfectly, and that is you should be taking feedback from your guests in person when they check out. Like sending them an email or a text message is lazy. It's better than nothing, but it's lazy. And having that worked into the checkout process where you can do it in a really tactful and respectful way. And what I heard you say and how I would build on that is, when a guest is checking out, the first thing is, how was your stay? Is there anything that could have been improved, right? So if they have any grievances, they have the chance to air that. And if they say nothing that was positive, you ask, hey, would you be willing to leave us a review? And if they say yes, then you just say, hey, we'll shoot you a follow-up email. We really appreciate it. And having that as an added step and there's a lot of different avenues. I like Google reviews because I think that's the most traffic, but there's also TripAdvisor and other avenues. But having that be a part of the process, and if the guests give you a verbal okay, then just sending that email and shooting it over to them minutes after they depart, so they can do that.
Yep, you're spot on with it, and there's many ways to spin that and do that. So we're still working on our follow-up review process, and it's just always improving, always adding. That is one thing we always try to do every day with our guests.
I think there's something to be said there as well about, there are lots of tips and tricks and tactics and strategies that people might have picked up from some of the guests that we've interviewed in the past. I would hope, at least, anyway. Otherwise, it's been a complete waste of time.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
But something like sending follow-up emails to get reviews, I think that is a tactic to get more testimonials, but there are a million small tactics that you can be implementing to make marginal improvements at your guest for the stay, for the marketing, for the reviews and testimonials, etc. But I think the first priority has to be to absolutely nail the guest experience, care about the guest experience, care about the guests, and make sure they're happy, which Big Noel, you certainly did. And then now it seems like you're stepping back a little bit, and because you're out of the weeds, you're able to assess, okay, how can we make a small improvement here? How can we make a small improvement there? And so that's where the website 2.0 comes, and that's where the testimonial process comes. And it feels like your business is going to be not completely different, but 20% better after a year of you being out of the weeds than when you were kind of really battling to get through the challenges, but also to get that core guest experience right.
Yep, absolutely. It's a great thing to get to that point where I'm stepping more into a visionary role now again, which kind of started out with. And it's just kind of been fascinating to see the full circle come around 6 years later, back into being a visionary and dreaming again.
I feel like you're going to be in expansion mode soon.
There might be some dirty little secrets coming down the next year.
I can't wait for those updates. Nick, did you have more that you were wanting to talk about for what's the top 5% for you? I was just curious, or did you finish up?
No, I think this in these early few episodes of the new format, we are just going to be kind of figuring out how we want to do this, and I this episode kind of went in an unexpected direction, really, where we've ended up grilling Big Noel all over again. But I think that's been the best part of the episode. So we had some kind of rehearsed stories lined up almost, but I think the second half of the episode has been by far the most valuable. So I that's everything from me, I think.
I do have one more subject matter
Okay.
I'd love to dive into, and it goes back to the brand. What you brought up, Nick, and what you crystallized, Big Noel, which is why are customers coming to your property? And I would even build on that to say go one step further, and that is tying into your brand and really thinking about what does your brand sound like, what does your brand taste like, what does it smell like, what does it feel like, and what does it look like? And and diving into that. And I have a vision that steps out. I don't know if anyone's ever been to like a hotel or a resort in Hawaii, but I remember going when I was young. And as soon as you walk in to the lobby, you see a beautiful lobby with flowers and like a beautiful landscape, right? So that's what you see. And then you come in and there's a waterfall next to the entrance. So you hear the sound of water. And then someone comes up and greets you with, aloha and a smile, and they put a lei of flowers around your neck. So now you smell these tropical Hawaiian flowers. And then they hand you a glass of fresh guava juice, and then you taste that guava juice. And that memory still sticks with me. And some of those more subtle sensations that we have of the five senses are the most memorable, particularly smells and tastes, in terms of triggering visceral memories. And so, I think when you're thinking about your customer experience and your brand, trying to have an answer to those questions, and some examples might be, maybe your brand smells like a fresh cup of coffee, on the porch of your unit watching sunrise. Or maybe it tastes like, at Big Noel's Glamping Golden Hour, which Nick and I love and have completely stolen. But at the Glamping Golden Hour, you're watching sunset over, Napa, and you're drinking a world-class red wine. Or when you go into your unit, is there a scent that is in there that is in all of the units? Is it, pine, or is it something else? What does it smell like? Or maybe it's the wildflowers that are naturally occurring on your property, or fresh flowers you put inside of everybody's unit. And maybe the sound is, if you're in Hawaii, it might be tropical birds of the rainforest. If you're at Big Noel's property, maybe it's the sound of the wind moving through the slot canyon. And it was funny, I was looking and I was going on to one of those top 1% websites, and it had this video, and the only sound that was playing was the sound of wind moving through the trees or moving over a property. And it was super subtle. And I was like, wow, what is that? But it just conjured this feeling of like, oh, wow, you are out of the city, you're out of the suburbs. You are like in a place where you are just hearing like the natural sounds of the world. So wanted to maybe turn that back to you, Big Noel, and see if obviously that's a pretty in-depth, detailed question, but if you had anything that you were trying to get guests to feel in those 5 different sensations, if there was anything you had in mind.
Yeah, what does Big Noel's brand taste like?
Well, the first piece is winding up the narrow valley to getting up to the property. So there's a little bit of sense of exploration. Really, it's kind of adventure, because like we're 3.5 miles off the highway. So there is that first initial piece is, hey, we're off on a gravel dirt road. So there is that instant sense of adventure begins with that. And then your arrival, we have a big, beautiful, gorgeous, like gated entrance now. So you kind of go through the big gates, and then you arrive to the lobby and you come in there, and we really try to make sure that the front desk really welcomes the individual. We have fresh waters. We are working on a really delicious, like deserty, like spring drink that we can have available. And then we really try to just educate the guests. And like, there's a lot for them to learn and understand about a place. There's snakes, there's other pieces. So you want to kind of like put in some fun aspects with it too, but also kind of be realistic and pragmatic with it. And then once we got them through there, we really have that next touch point where we actually guide them to their camps. So we actually will guide you to your camp. We'll show you how to operate everything, and we'll let you get merged with your experience. And then from there, most folks want to sit in the outdoor swings. They want to see the sunrise, see the sunsets, want to hear the birds chirping. They want to see the eagles fly over the canyon up there. We have two of them that live up on the property. And then the most magical moment happens. It is when the Milky Way comes out. So when the stars come out, and you can just sit there in awe and just realize how small we actually are in this big universe. That is to me is the pinnacle moment.
See, it's not for me to tell you how to run your business or market your business, but I feel like there's such a good opportunity for you to post on Instagram, like you talking about that experience, because you saying that makes me want to book right now. And this is what I was saying earlier about how I think the best sites have their own thing and are in the vision of their creator. What you've just done is a prime example of that, and I think you speaking about it is so compelling. And maybe you need to do a few Instagram lives or just
I do. The team would be happy if I did. Yeah. That's my next step I need to work on.
There you go.
Yeah, I love that, and it's excellent. It made me think of another tidbit. I've learned about this book called The Art of Gathering. It's something my girlfriend read and actually had like a book club type situation to talk about. And it's mostly meant on hosting events, but it actually ties in very well with hospitality. And one of the lessons learned from that is don't start or end your event with logistics, which is a really interesting thing. And so obviously you have to cover logistics for everything, right? Like if there's snakes on the property, or knowing how the heat works is super important. But one interesting thing maybe for the guests to take away is if the very first interaction they have with the property or the guests and the very last interaction for the property or the guests to be something that's a little bit more emotive or like feeling based, something to keep in mind, then I definitely recommend reading that book to anyone who wants some creative ideas, because I think a lot of it applies to everything from like the invitation, what experience to set, what they should expect when they're on the property. A lot of this stuff you guys covered already, but thought that was worth sharing.
I think particularly the last part as well, a really nice dessert can kind of change the course of the whole meal before it, and I've kind of basically just repeated what you said, but I do think that there is absolutely something in that, and I will shut up because I've just copied what you've just said.
I think we just realized Nick likes to eat his desserts first. I think we just found out about Nick.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if there's something really interesting and I don't know if I know of any great examples of this, but like almost something guests could take with them when they leave that is a reminder of their experience, and not something that's gimmicky, but something that's like subtle and unique. And
so I had when I was looking at doing my own ground up development, I had a crazy impractical idea that kind of had to dismiss pretty quickly, but just because you asked. One idea I had was obviously physical music isn't as much of a thing now. I know vinyl's its own niche, but everyone streams music, and certainly no one has cassette tapes anymore. So again, completely impractical, dismissed very quickly, but I had the idea of, okay, well, the guests will take a quiz about their favorite things, favorite kind of music, etc. And we'd make a personal mixtape for them in cassette form or something, and then they would take it away, and it would have our branding on it, and it would be a personal experience that's put together for them, and they physically take it away. Now again, I just don't think we'd ever be able to do that unless we were charging $2,000 a night, just because there's so many parts to it. But that was an idea we had that I would throw around.
Man, I think the idea of walking into your unit and like one of your favorite songs or favorite bands is playing is pretty damn good.
That was on the list as well. Yeah.
And another one that you made me think of is like, vinyls are super cool and record players are super cool, and we don't really consume music that way anymore as far as listening to a whole record. And it might be too cumbersome to get something like that into someone's unit, but in the common, it would be really interesting if a common area had a record playing, at happy hour or all day, and it was just different records.
I think the more practical version of what I suggested is I think you can get a record player. If you got a big unit, you could get a record player in there. Maybe you do some kind of way of figuring out what kind of music they like beforehand. Maybe you don't, I don't know. But to have, jazz, if someone's booked, for example, a romance package upsell where they want flowers on the bed and champagne, you could easily put a bit of jazz or romance music or whatever as they walk in. And the feedback I got from
Marvin Gaye.
Well, yeah. The feedback I got when I was sharing the kind of cassette tape idea or the idea of playing music as they walked in was, it sounded like you're trying to force a couple to have as soon as they arrive. So maybe you do restrict it to if they book a romance package upsell, but I think there's an idea in there somewhere. So audience, feel free to run with
it. You might need to take some guest feedback, do a little trial run and see how it's received.
Yep.
We had, and on that note, we'll finish off.
Yeah, perfect. Oh, man. Nick, I don't know about you, but I'm already loving this new format and these rabbit holes that we get to go down. And Big Null, exceeding expectations as always. Like, you just need to create your own book, I think, about like how to execute. And I think it'd be a bestseller in the glamping hospitality world. A couple gold nuggets that really stood out to me is, how much guests spend time on your review page, nailing the glamping golden hour. And just like, why is it that people are coming to your property, and like that experience under the starry night really stood out. Big Null, wanted to check in, see if you have any ask for the audience, anything you're working on, if you want to give a way for them to get in touch with you, or if you're looking for properties, or if you're looking for anything to ask the audience, now's the time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think the biggest thing for me is just realizing that we're all in this together. So a guest that comes to my place will go to your place, and a guest will come to your place will come to my place. So as long as we're all on the same mission of trying to build each other up and continue to improve our experiences for each of our guests and continue to build this industry is probably my biggest ask, because as we grow, like, this is going to be critical, because we want to create our customers and guests into lifetime individuals that want to create and go to all the different experiences. So that's my biggest ask right now, is just continue to make sure that we continue to take care of our guests and this industry.
I love that. And that is one of my favorite things about the glamping industry and the glamping show and the AGA. One of the things I wanted to suggest to the audience is the American Glamping Association awards are coming up, and you can vote on these different categories. And one of them is like who's giving back or helping the industry. And I wanted to give a little shout out to our host, Nick Perslow, who is, has put 3 years into this free podcast. And I can tell you that this doesn't make him any money, and it takes a lot of time and sometimes costs him money to deliver free content to help people develop their glamping site. So if you're a member of the AGA and you found this podcast helpful, go onto their website, fill it out, give them a vote. There's also a section in there for, who's been kind of shining stars as far as glamping location operators. I definitely want to throw out that Big Null he's my vote, and so maybe give him a little love. Obviously, use your own judgment on who you think is the best, but just wanted to try to galvanize people behind these two great folks to ideally give them a little bit of recognition.
That's very kind, Connor. That's very kind.
Yes, absolutely. I do appreciate it.
So I think that's probably about it. Big Null, thank you so much for being our first guest on this revamped format. You've been patient with us as we kind of figure it out, and it will take a few more episodes to figure things out. But there's a reason why we invited you back on, and that's because we really enjoy spending time with you and discussing all things glamping and outdoor hospitality. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. To the audience, please stick with us as we figure out how we do this as we expand it and improve it, hopefully. But hopefully there was enough wisdom in there from Big Null today to make it worth the listen. So thank you, and please do send any suggestions for improvement or segments or episode ideas to nick@glampytech.com as well, and we promise to take them into consideration as well. And thank you, Connor, for instigating the change and for bringing so many new ideas, and we're really excited to have you on board as well.
My pleasure. Thanks, everybody.
Cool.
Yep, it's
Thanks,
been an
guys.
honor too, Nick. Thanks for the invitation back. Hopefully they'll deliver some value to everybody, and just excited to see everybody continue to grow. So thank you again.
Thank you, Big Al.